Good evening again. This is still Pastor Barbara, aka Preacher with Parrots. Uh, we're in the book of Joshua. We've just done chapters 1 and 2, and we're going to do 3. It won't take us very long, but this will be a short video. But it is our second video of the day. And I've just been talking to some of the birds that, well, the male especially has been chatting over there. He usually doesn't um, make noise when I'm talking. Now they're crossing the Jordan. The spies have gone back, and they had been hiding out for 3 days. Uh, Joshua had told the people, "You've got 3 days to get yourself ready to go, and then we're crossing." Early in the morning, Joshua and the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. This is what they told them. There were 2 pictures that I wanted to put out with the information on this topic. One of them showed the people, all of them, on the east side of the Jordan River. The second picture, and I put a different one in because it made sense to use it at the beginning of the study of Joshua, but I'll probably use this later. It has the high priest holding the Ark of the Covenant, standing in the middle of the Jordan River, and the river has stopped up, just like the Red Sea stopped up for Moses. You see certain parallels between Moses and Joshua. Moses, they knew. Joshua, they hoped in. They didn't have any proof. They're about to find out that what God told Joshua, "As I was with Moses, so will I be with you." When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God and the priests who are Levites carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you've never been this way before. They've never done this before. Their fathers had crossed the Red Sea, but it was a little different. But they themselves had never had anything like this happen to them. But keep a distance of about 1,000 yards. This was 2,000 something in the King James Version. So when we come to it again, 500 yards would be equal to 1, and 1,000 yards to 2. Between you and the ark, do not go near it. Always know what is holy and what is God's, and where you belong. Don't assume too much. Joshua told the people, "Consecrate yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things for you." To consecrate yourself is to sanctify yourself. To sanctify yourself has 2 meanings. One is to do something for a particular purpose, like you dedicate an organ or to be used to play in the church, although I guess nowadays it's a guitar or a mouth organ or something. Um, the other is to become more God-like. We're never going to become like God, but we can become more like Him than we are today. Consecrate yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things. Joshua said to the priests, take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on ahead of the people. Whatever job you take, wherever neighborhood you move into, whoever you marry and have a family with, may the first thing you consider in making an important decision be God. Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel. Joshua, you're just another nice guy. Moses anointed you. Moses laid his hands on your head. Moses consecrated you, but yeah. Tomorrow, or today, I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel. Pretty soon, Israel's going to look at Joshua the way their parents looked at Moses. They will see God talk to him. They will hear his orders. They will follow his orders and they'll see, wow, it works. So that you may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river. Everybody else, stay out of the river. But the priests who are carrying the Ark of the Covenant was that trunk-like piece of furniture in which God said above it, his presence would remain. They would always know he was with them because that's where he would be. Stand in the river, barefoot, holding the Ark of the Covenant, God's agreement with his people. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. What is
Strong winds overnight creating extreme fire danger. Stay alert. Listen to authorities.
y'all hear that? That may have been my cell phone. Strong winds overnight creating extreme fire danger. Stay alert, listen to it. Yeah, it's a severe alert. December 6th, 8:24. The reason I'm getting this message is that I live on a mountain. They talk about fires. When they talk about where I live, it's usually forest fires because we have a lot of timber to burn. From time to time, we have a little city and there are houses and people. This is, aside from the cell phone ringing, the first thing I've heard from this because it doesn't tell me when I get a message. I just checked. I have a message. We didn't hear it come in. Some preacher's wife sent me a picture of their husband in church tonight. Okay. See, I never got any sound on that, but at least the alerts, I guess, are Well, now you know what it is to live on the mountain and have a cell phone that's connected for stuff like this. The reason that it's important is because the wind is strong and the forest, and they can't fight it. You can't stop it. You can't plan what to do because you don't know what the wind is going to do. You can't position yourself over here. You can't, if we have a fire and it's going like up the mountain, we can't say, okay, we're gonna burn out some places here so that when it gets right here, it will stop. Can't do that because we don't know. While the wind is causing the fire. Normally, when we have a forest fire, it's without wind, and it all goes uphill. And I'm at between 5,000 and 6,000 feet, and this thing starts at about 1,000 or a few hundred feet. But I've never had that thing sound off, especially when I'm recording. Okay, so much for that. We're back to Joshua. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. However difficult the place is that you've got to go, God's presence goes first. You don't have to get there and ask him to come. I'm scared. No, his presence is already there if this is a good lesson to us. Choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel. And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, let's not forget, he isn't just a God over Israel. He is God of all the earth. Set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. It stood like this. The water here, it stops. Same thing as in the Red Sea. Its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. There are farmers, some of you may know this, in places where there's not a lot of rain. But they have certain periods of time when they have a lot of water in the rivers that overflow. Now, not all the water in the rivers comes out. We have the same problem in the lake. I have not seen rain here where it's come up to the stores that are maybe 20 feet, 30, 40 feet from the lake. I've been when the lake was down and you had to take a little dinghy to get to your boat. But I haven't been the other way where there's been so much water that it's gotten in the stores that are around the lake in the village. But just like our lake will overflow according to how much, because we're in the mountains and we get fed from the streams that come from melted snow. So this is in the spring. By midsummer, it's normal. Well, there are people who know when the water is going to do this, and they know when their crops need water, and they plant specifically so the overflow. This was during the time when the Jordan River would be really, really, really full of water. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Well, that's the opposite of what I said, because we have it here in the mountains now. Their mountains are about 3,000 feet. Um, we have it in the spring when the snow has melted, because that's where water and rivers come from. Yet as soon as the priests are saying that it's at flood stage, it's full. Now, I was never a great swimmer. I don't like getting water in my nose and water in my ears, and I love being in the water. I was raised in a county that had 400 lakes. I live um, to where I can see the lake. To drive it like this is less than a mile, but to go straight to it is like about 4 blocks. Uh, but I could swim the Jordan River easily. It was not a big deal. But it was at flood stage. As soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the Sea of Arabeth, and that's another name for the Salt Sea, was completely cut off. Now they are very close. Jericho is very close is just north of the Salton Sea. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the middle of the Jordan, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completing crossing on dry ground. I'm going to read not a lot of, but a little bit into, and I'm looking for something that I can mark in my Bible. I'm going to read a little bit into the next chapter to kind of get this at a good place to end. They stood in the middle of the river until the whole country, I don't want you to think of 12 tribes with a few people each, the whole nation crossed on dry ground. Chapter 4. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones, and from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priest stood, get as close to those priests standing as you can, and each one get a rock and carry it on your shoulder. We're not talking a stone. We're talking about a big rock. And to carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. Now, this is not a church full of people on the banks of a river. This is a nation. So Joshua called together the 12 men that had been appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan, each of you to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of tribes of Israel, to serve as a sign among you. Everywhere they went, they did something to leave a sign, so that people going back, the kids would say, Daddy, what's that there for? What are those 12 big rocks there for? Oh, that's when our forefathers came, and everything had a meaning to remind them continually of their history. When your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the Ark of the Covenant. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial. I don't want to do the whole chapter. I'm going to go to verse 14. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priests who carried the ark of the covenant had stood, and they're there till this day. I don't know that they're there today. They're there at the day he wrote this. When he said they're there till this day, at the time he wrote this. And he didn't write, it wasn't a diary that he wrote every night what he did. Sometimes it was years later. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until the Lord had commanded Joshua, was done by the people. Just as Moses had directed Joshua, the people hurried over. And as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side while the people watched. The men of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over, armed in front of the Israelites, as Moses had directed them, for battle crossed over. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel. Their fathers respected, as well they should, Moses. And now they respected, as well they should, of Joshua. And they revered him all the days of his life. They revered Moses till the day he died. And he said, now you look to Joshua. I'm going to end it right here. And this is where we will start next week. Let me, and I should apologize for the interference, I guess. I never had my cell phone do that. I thought it was on its last leg. I guess it's got more power than I thought. But we have had locally, every local channel or every channel within 100 miles has been on the thing of the fire. And one of the things that they're hearing tonight, and I have been in 3 forest fires since I've been up here, 4 altogether. It's a little difficult when it's at night, but I suppose that if you got that, it'll sound off in the night if we need to get up and leave. I've got extra cages for birds just for situations like this. The big ones that have cages that are, well, I can't even show you and get both hands on the screen. Huge cages you can't even lift. Well, they go in smaller cages if we're in a fire. That's, if you choose to live in certain places, well, you can have fire anywhere. But if you live in certain places, you are more apt to have certain things happen to you. So I sort of apologize for my cell phone. I brought it here because, you know, you never do know. So we're going to close the video, and I'm still going to be here with my group for a little bit. Enjoy.